Welcome to this week's episode of Courageous Leaders Changing the World. Super excited for this week's guest, Julie Thompson. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, name of the podcast is Courageous Leaders Changing the World. What's been a time that you've had to summon more courage than any other time?
Besides every single day. A significant time. Let me think of that one. I think it comes around often, and I think it's when you're faced with, it's like a changing rhythm that happens within inside you and within the business scape. It's always changing, and your rhythm and flow always changes. And for me, I think one of my biggest struggles is staying consistently in love with the same thing for a long period of time, even though changing, what I do with training and certification is it's teaching and certifying people, but sometimes it's just, teaching the same content or doing the same thing. Sometimes it's boring, and I think finding the courage to find new ways to fall in love with it, for me, that is really courageous. Like that's where I feel like I have to dig really deep. I'm somebody who gets bored really easily. So that I think it takes courage. I think it really does to stick with something consistently. And one of my business partners once told me, he said, "Do you want to know the secret to business?" And I said, "Yeah, tell me." He goes, "There is no secret." He said, "You've just got to be great at the boring stuff." So I think it's quite courageous, trying to find passion in the boring stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
How do you start to expand out into that more, like especially when you're doing things which are repetitive?
I feel like it's just meeting new people and elevating the people that you get to work with. So what I find a lot of leaders will do is they just start coaching better people. They start working with people or people with more skin in the game or a longer story. So over time, it's just expanding on those people and seeking them out. So rather than working with more people, it's probably actually working with less people, but people with a deeper grain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I remember when I was a PT back in the day, someone basically said, you can go wide with people you work with or you can go deep.
Yeah.
And, the piece is like, it's less about necessarily the number of people, but more about the second tier impact of those people. If you're working with the president of America, what is your second tier impact comparative to working with someone on Centrelink?
Exactly. Yeah.
How does someone start to create more excitement to be able to face off with stepping into working with high level people then?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
What does it take for someone to be able to, I guess, then journey into stepping into working with more high level people rather than going into the socially acceptable of like going for the big numbers, the vanity metrics?
Yeah. I believe it's just something about finding yourself, finding your true north, the thing that really drives your own level of passion, because I feel like the more passionate you are, the better you're going to be able to serve the person that's sitting in front of you. So if you continue to just honor yourself and be true with yourself, like when it's getting boring and when it's getting mundane, don't stay there. If you can help it, don't stay there. It's just shift, pivot, move. And I think, I'm a big believer in meditation. It's like, quieten the mind so the soul can speak. And the more time you spend in knowing who you truly are and what truly drives you, and it's a frequency thing, which I'm sure you're very aware of. When you understand the level of frequency that gives you the passion, the buzz, the joy, when it feels like that, it's like a heat signal. You just go and seek more of that. And sometimes it does take brave and courageous truth, because you have to mourn and grieve the parts of you that fall away in that process as well. If you try and hang on to everything, you're sort of not really great at everything. So, yeah.
What's been something that you've had to mourn and grieve recently then?
With my business, I've been teaching NLP for the last 7 years, NLP training and certification. Still love it, absolutely love it. But I think it's just diversifying it a little bit and teaching it to people who they're not just there for the certification. They want to understand how they can implement it in every area of life. So NLP itself is such a wide variety of toolkit. You can use it in language, you can use it in relationships, communications, sales, parenting, and self self-actualization. And so I think it's just, falling in love with the piece that you like and then seeking out those people. If that makes sense. So that didn't really answer the question, did it? What have I had to grieve recently? Gee whiz, I grieve lots. I think it's just the evolution. It's, grieving the things that used to bring me joy that no longer bring me joy. It happens regularly. And it's sitting in that moment of it comes with fascination, but it also comes with frustration, if that makes sense. I'm fascinated by what's coming through, but I'm frustrated that I'm no longer excited about what used to be, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think it's just sitting in that, like that I find is, I grieve it often and almost on the daily sometimes. There will be moments in time where you're grieving so much in one period of time that you can't even actually pinpoint exactly what it is. And that's when you do need that time out, if that makes sense.
How does one step into more willingness to grieve then? Because it's often something which is resisted by many, many people.
Yeah. I love that you asked this question because I believe it's about making space, something that I believe that in business we're so driven by hustle culture. And when you're hustling all the time, you're not giving yourself time and space to empty out the trash, if you like, and to work out what's not working and what's not bringing in that level of excitement anymore. And I think it's also about making strategic decisions around that because, you might be grieving it because it's not bringing you joy, but it doesn't mean it's not right for the business still. So it's like, how do you find somebody that has just as much passion as you once had about that thing and bring them in? So it kind of takes it back to the question that you asked before, like what's one of the hardest things I've grieved? It's probably multiple businesses that I've let go of in the past because I felt bored with them and yet I miss them every day because I let them go.
Yeah.
But at that time, I probably didn't have the smarts in my kit to recognize that I should have taught somebody what I knew in that moment of time and kept it part of what I do, if that makes sense.
How does one then, shift beyond that kind of pattern of like, I love to burn things down myself? How do we create the journey of like going beyond that? Because, there's like, it's like this paradox. There's people who are naturally innovators and love starting things, and there's naturally people who are finishers and things like that. How do we create that level of flexibility that we can do both of those things?
Yeah, I love that. And so if you think about it, Adam Hudson, I don't know if you know who Adam Hudson is from Unemployable, but he had this concept when he was running the Amazon, the reliable education through Amazon. And he said there was 3 parts of a successful business, and one's idea, the other one is capital, and the other one is execution. And I think a lot of business owners are trying to be in execution when they're actually probably the ideas people. So it's just recognizing what is your genius zone and trying to stay in your own lane as much as possible. So yeah, I feel like a lot of newer business owners or people who are in the first phases, they probably have to be the executor as well. But I think that when you're in love with something and it's worth fighting for, I think work out which bit you're great at and try and stay in your lane as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the piece that you're greatest at then?
Probably the ideas. Probably the ideas. I'm definitely a visionary person. I see the bigger picture in things. I find myself caught up often in the execution piece. So something I'm still learning to navigate. Yeah.
How does someone start to live their life more from their genius when they do get caught in the execution part of it?
Yeah.
If that's, if they're predominantly an ideas person.
Yeah. I think it's just getting to know yourself better. This is where, doing the work, finding out, doing all the personal development stuff to actually, even Myers-Briggs, finding out what is it that you are actually great at, what is your genius zone. A lot of business owners will spend time even trying to be a team leader or doing stuff that it's not generally what they're great at. And it's a great recipe to burn yourself out really quickly. So if anyone is stuck, I highly recommend just get to know yourself. Do your Myers-Briggs personality profile, do a couple of personal development things, and give yourself time and space to, I also use a high performance planner, one of Brenda Burchard's, and I find that's a really great tool to utilize because it's it helps you recognize your own mindset in the morning and what you're focusing on. And it's got some great reflection questions at the end of the day. But what I've found by using it over a period of time, you start to recognize your own patterns. And so it's a really good reflector and mirror. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a coach, and I think that everybody should have a coach for something, I think that we should have multiple coaches for lots of different things, because coaches are the people who are able to see your blind spots. They're people who can tell you probably the things that you don't know about yourself. They can watch you. They can recognize your patterns. And I think that's the biggest piece is give yourself permission to fully understand yourself, like spend time on that. If you're too busy hustling and not spending time to actually understand who you really are as an operator and as a person, try and commit to more time doing that. Yeah.
How do you feel about people having multiple coaches?
I think if you're doing it just for the sake of bragging rights, saying I have a coach for everything, probably not the greatest thing to do. But I like to think of, if you're in business and if you want to stay in business, my advice is to become an Olympic athlete of business. And so one of the greatest ways that you could do that is, understand what are the metrics that you actually need support with and go and find an expert coach that works in that particular area. So if wealth creation is your biggest downfall, go and speak to a wealth coach. If your energy and vitality, like you're always burning out, go and speak to a health coach. If you have no idea about business, get yourself a business coach. If you are if you've got a fair few of the pieces of the puzzle already lined up and you want to take yourself to the next level, like get yourself a high performance coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think most people, it's shifting a lot more recently is most people think they get a coach because they need to get a coach rather than actually using it as an enhancement to what they're doing. And one of the things that I notice is when, ultra achievers will often pursue mastery in what they're doing. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. I recognize that my speaking skill set is here and I want it to get better. So I get support with that from a place of, I'm going to enhance what I'm already doing rather than like, all right, well, I need this person outside of me to be able to fix all of my broken shit that's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely been a very core shift in terms of a lot of people, but I still think that, there's still pieces where people will still outsource their power to some degree to their coach. What do you see playing out with that?
Yeah, I think for a lot of, I say early people in the game, like I think for somebody who's been in business for 5 years or less, they're probably running into lots of different challenges and issues and looking for the next big thing and very driven by a marketing pitch. Like earn $50,000 in 90 days or, whatever it is, $100,000 months. But they're generally then going to follow somebody else's system. And it's probably not the right system for them. They'll probably feel out of alignment with a few areas in that. I've kind of reverse coached a lot of people that have come through where they've been in the coaching space. So I think for newer people in the industry looking for coaches, I still think it's valuable to ask yourself the question, like, what specifically do you want support with? Do you need the recipe? Then it's okay to go and find somebody who's giving you the recipe. And I'd still recommend in that space is to still lean into what feels aligned and what doesn't. And if it's a specific something, like really do your homework and research and find somebody who excels in that piece. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own coaches over the years in business. And there's some coaches that I've put money on the table and, just literally like walked out the door the next day with no refund available, realizing that it wasn't the right thing for me. And then I've worked with coaches before who they're offering a complete program. And I'm like, actually, I just want that piece of the program. Like I've got other people for this. And there's been times where I've worked with 3 different coaches simultaneously, but it's like I wanted that person for their specific skill set in a particular area of the business. And so it's like take what works for you and just leave the rest on the table. And if you're working with a great coach, then they should be okay with you doing that as well. If any coach sort of, gives you the advice like it's my way or the highway, or you're just not following the system, I think, there's definitely room for invitation or self-inquiry with that kind of stuff.
Mm. How does one go beyond that experience of recognizing that, they've invested in something and it was probably not the right thing at the right time for them?
Yeah, lesson I've learned a few times. So it's read the fine print first, see if there's refunds available. But, take it as a learning, take it as a lesson. It's like going into your first relationship, right? You don't know what you're going to get sometimes. So it's just honoring your own self in the process. It's not about, this didn't work for me, or, trying to point the finger at the coach saying, oh, well, they're not this and they're not that. It's really about coming back to self and just taking ownership and accountability and responsibility. And that's why I say making time for self-inquiry is so important. Doing the daily check-in with yourself, doing the high performance planning, giving yourself the time and space for meditation and self-reflection, and just be honest with yourself. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not the right thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's kind of in that experience right now when they're recognizing that, they've invested in something and it's probably not the thing for them?
Firstly, if that's what somebody is going through and what they're sensing, is try and be as clear as possible as what specifically is not right. Because sometimes it could just be, it's not that the whole thing's not right. There could be one element of it that's putting them off.
Mm.
So it's like trying to, pinpoint what specifically it is. Is it the way it's being delivered? Is it the program itself? Is it that there's other people in the program, or whatever it is? So it's trying to, pinpoint what specifically it is that's not working. And then if they decide that it's just the whole thing is not right for them, then, work out what is right for them before they go and seek it next. Like, what is it that they are actually seeking? Because I think when people get to a point where something's not working, they forget to focus on what will work for them.
Mm.
So they get too caught up in that part of the process. So it's good to identify what's not working or what's not right, but then don't spend too much time there. Try and get out there as quickly as possible and work out, well, what is the right thing that they need.
Mm.
Yeah,
I love that. One of the core principles that we work with people on is notice what's different.
Yeah.
Because most people fall into the trap of like, oh, this is the same, all of the things that are the same, which actually then closes you off to actually receiving more, because you only ever recreate the past, and it becomes this, copying and pasting the past into the future, rather than actually starting to see, well, what is there? And in the context of, investing in programs and things of that nature, it's like, okay, well, who chose the program?
Yeah.
It's like there's that level of responsibility required in that to be able to open things up. There's been many times where, if I've invested in things and then I look back in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that's probably why it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Where I was investing from was, this need, have to energy, which was actually like pushing the things further away because of the energetic frequency that I was coming from.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, how do people create a deeper sense of awareness around that? And then how important is, the energy that you're coming from in the things that you're doing?
I think it's it comes to before you make the decision to opt in as well. It's like asking yourself, being honest with yourself, why are you choosing the program? Like, what specifically are you wanting to get out of it? And having a proper conversation with the person who's delivering the program or the coach, like, can they deliver on what specifically you're looking for? And that will avoid a lot of finger pointing or disappointment once you're inside a program. So it's like just being super clear on what's the desired outcome or objective, if that makes sense. What was the other part of your question? Sorry.
I don't remember.
That's great. I think it really is. It's about taking that self, it is like we have to take this self accountability and this self responsibility. And I know that a lot of people get caught up in the hype in a room. Like, it's like, okay, everybody go to the back of the room and put your credit card down, and today only you're going to get this and this and this. And then so people have this FOMO aspect, and they're not probably making a conscious choice from an aligned place within them. So it's like, give yourself a bit of time and space to, even if you walk out of a room for 10 minutes and give yourself or sleep on it for a day, give yourself the permission to actually ask, what specifically do I want from this? And has it been made clear to me that the person can provide this or help me gain this, if that makes sense? So I always say, come up with great questions for yourself, and this is where I say, like taking the time I feel like there's this time element, which it's such a precious commodity that a lot of people don't pay that much attention to in today's hustle culture. Time is such a crucial element in everything that we do. And it's like if you just give yourself a little bit of time every single day to tune into yourself and your needs and what's working and what's not working and, doing your priming in the morning and then setting your intentions and then, asking yourself the question, who's the one person that can help me achieve this today? Or who's the one person that can, help me see my blind spot on why I'm not achieving this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. One of the common themes that you've kind of mentioned is like self-honesty. How does someone open up to a new level of self-honesty?
Oh,
because it's very easy to fall into like, oh, I'm being honest,
Yeah. Look, sometimes being honest isn't pretty. That's the bare bones of it. I think they say the truth hurts, right? And there's so much ego and all of this stuff. And, it's why I like working with seasoned business owners. I like someone that's got skin in the game, that's absolutely probably fallen apart 100 times, almost lost everything a few times and burnt out a couple of times and got it wrong multiple times. I like people with that level of self-honesty because they're not afraid of that honesty. So if you're new in the self-honesty game, I know what that felt like the first time that I was going through that. And it really is. It's like having the personal breakthrough, if you like. And you've got to be okay with it. And sometimes it's about working out when you're ready for that. And any coach in the coaching industry can probably tell you some people are just not ready yet. And so it's understanding like, if you're not ready right now to face yourself truly, like what's stopping you or what are you afraid of or what are you fearful of? And if there's things that you are afraid to sort of admit to yourself, I'd say the best coach you could get right now, if that's what you're going through, is get yourself a coach that can help you break through that stuff because that will stop everything else that follows on from there. You've got to be able to seriously look at your deepest fears, your deepest hurts, your deepest shames and regrets and guilts and all of the things. And you've got to be able to get through that first before you can get through anything else. Yeah.
What's been one of those that you've journeyed recently, the deepest fears or shames or regrets?
Oh, gee whiz. Yeah, wow. One of the which one shall I go for? There's so many. Deepest fears that come up for me, which I'm still navigating, is the fear about not making the right decisions in the right amount of time and the fear of letting people go that probably aren't going to support you at your highest version of yourself. Like that hurts, it hurts for... There's no pretty part about that, It's letting people go when you need to. And if you think about, when I talk about being an Olympic athlete in business, if you are a lover of sport and you look at the highest level of an elite athlete in that sport, they don't have time and space for negative people in their environments. They just don't. They have only the highest people in their network that keep them accountable to that level. And so I think one of the biggest fears is, just summoning the courage every so often because it's not just you do it once and it's done. It's like you have to constantly pull those weeds out of your garden if you want to maintain a higher frequency in business, in life, in relationships. And so that's an ongoing fear, I think, is just, being somebody who just loves on everybody and knows that everyone's on their own journey, sometimes having to break those ties or end those relationships. I think that's an ongoing fear. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw this thing recently with it was like Elon Musk's assistant or something. She was like interviewed about, Elon Musk's notoriously high turnover of like staff.
Yeah.
And she basically just like she'd been his assistant for like 12 years and she's like seen it all. And she's like, well, there's only one thing that has people stay around, and that's like, believing that he can do it.
Yeah.
People just don't last around Elon Musk when they say, no, we can't do that, or we can't do this, whatever the insane timeline that he gives around things.
Yeah.
Like, going to Mars, or I don't know. So you saw recently how he basically created I can't remember what it's called, like a supercomputer lab or whatever that normally takes 3 years to build it, and he did it in like 30 days.
Yeah.
It's like,
crazy.
If you've got a vision that is so big, it's like it is critical for you to be able to surround yourself with those people and also have those uncomfortable conversations to be able to say like, I love you, and, let's make it a part-time thing rather than, a full-time relationship that we're going to have.
Yeah.
How does someone take the first steps when they recognize that their relationship in business or their intimate relationship or their friends, how does someone start that conversation of going, okay, cool, the dynamic of this needs to shift?
Yeah, I think it's about becoming super clear on what is your vision, what is your belief, and then whoever you're having the conversation with is letting them know that that is exactly what your belief and your mission is, and that you are only wanting to keep the people on your team that are going to support that belief with you. And it's okay to open the invitation to others if they want to come on that journey. And it's a tricky one because even though a lot of people want to be on the journey, belief is a different thing. Belief is either you believe something or you don't, and there's no right or wrong in that. It's true for you as the individual. So if somebody just doesn't have that belief, are they constantly going to be dimming the other person's belief in that? And so that's where it does get tricky. But I think the first part of the conversation is being super clear on how do you articulate what specifically is your vision, your mission, and how do you want the people on your team to support you in that? And how are you articulating that to them or communicating that to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your vision then?
Gee whiz, it keeps evolving and it keeps changing. So the vision for the next 7 years is basically leading into the 2032 Olympics. And it's not specifically the Olympic Games, but it is taking a community and a movement of people that are on the journey of how do they become Olympic athletes in business and in their lives. And so, and I love the analogy of the Olympics, because if you watch professional sports, I actually follow the motocross. That's one of my favorite sports. And when I look at the athletes that are at the top of their game, like there's two Australians actually, two brothers who have just absolutely annihilated the entire competition for the year. And you look at the work that they put in, but you look at the team that they have behind them and the different types of coaches that they have. But then you also look at the science behind it. Like they are consistently doing competitor analysis. So they're, a member of their team will go and, analyze the competitors, and they'll actually, share feedback that they're shaving 0.4 of a second here and 0.3 of a second here. And so how do we analyze our own business like that? So my vision over the next 7 years is to take as many people on that journey through what we've created. So with the Advanced Mind Academy, True Coaching Solutions, the Million Women Movement, WellCorp, all of the businesses that we are collaborating with. And it's like, how do we utilize AI in health, AI in business, AI in science, and how do we provide like an Olympic athlete level of coaching to the right people? And when we think of this 7-year vision, when we think about COVID, like that was only 6 years ago. And,
It was like 3 lifetimes.
It's like 3 lifetimes ago, right? And you think about who is still actually going to be in business in 7 years from now, and how much business will change between then and now, with all the AI that we have in place. Everything is changing so quickly, so fast, so adaptive. And if you haven't got the energy to keep up with it, you're just going to probably get left behind, So it's like, how do we keep people healthy and well and focusing on the right things? And when you mentioned about having the right people on the team and having those conversations, if you've got dead wood in your team or people that don't have the belief or the vision, or the support, they're not going to make the cut. They're not going to be there in 7 years from now. So my vision is, our vision and mission is like helping 1 million female-led business owners, to have world-class businesses by the Olympics. And it's not necessarily to throw their hat in the ring for the Olympics itself, but it's using that as a platform, if you like, as to how can we learn so much about that to create world-class businesses and world-class business owners in that process.
Mm-hmm. How do you define a world-class business?
World-class business, that's actually probably a very tricky question because not everybody in business wants to be on the world stage. But a world-class business is, I would say this, and probably being world-class is probably different to some people's vision and their mission, and that's absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So world-class in the context that we're thinking of, it's if somebody's got a business, how is their business perceived by the outside world? What are the pillars that they've got? What's their lifespan journey of the business? Like, what does it look like in 7 years from now? Is it sustainable? And what does the business give back to them as a business owner? And the interesting concept on that is I've worked with so many business owners who have fallen apart or hit burnout or not made the cut themselves in their own businesses because they've just burnt out from the hustle and the grind. And so it's like, how does the business itself, like I believe a world-class business, it supports the business owner or the business consortium, and it also supports the people in the business. And I'm a big believer in ecology, so I believe whatever the business is, it's for the greater good as well.
What do you mean by ecology for those who haven't done an LP?
Yeah, so ecology is like it's a win-win. It's a win for you, it's a win for the people that you work with, and it's a win for the greater good. Yeah.
With, technology and everything moving at a faster rate, how do we keep up?
It pays to be a bit of a geek, I'll say that much, or have somebody on your team who's a super geek. It definitely pays to have a finger on the pulse, know what's happening in your industry, know what's happening in your line of business, know what your competitors are doing, know what technology and advancements are available in your particular industry as well. Yeah.
You mentioned competitors a couple of times. How does someone balance that paradox of recognizing what competitors are doing but also staying in your own lane?
Yeah, I love that. So some businesses are wholly and solely in their own lane and they have no competitors, which is absolutely great for them. I think if you're in a business industry or niche where you do have competitors, it's not about working out what they're doing and trying to, do the same thing. It's recognizing like where are they having wins? Where are they getting, like supposing for Olympic athlete, where are they shaving, where are they getting 0.4 of a second faster than what you are? Because that's what's winning for them. It's about learning, like, finding I would say this, when you're doing a competitor analysis in business, is find the top 3 of, leaders in your industry, work out what are they doing, what are the strategies that they are utilizing to help them be at the top. So is it that they're running a lean operation, are they doing more with less resources, or are they absolutely needing as many team players or people in their teams? Is it that they're utilizing the AI advancements that you're not aware of yet? Are they paying lower wages? Are they, supporting their team members better? So if you've got long-term vision in your business, it's like, how do you keep your team motivated for the next 7 years? If your goal is to be in business in 7 years from now, how do you keep the team and the dream alive, within them? How are you offering them to move forward in your business as well? Yeah.
What would you say is the distinction between copying other people and then modeling them?
Yeah, I love that. So copying would be almost, and you do see it out there. It's like, oh, okay, they're running an 8-week challenge. Let's us run an 8-week challenge. And oh, they're doing this giveaway. Let's do that giveaway. So it's literally directly copying what somebody else is doing. Oh, they've got a unique influencer. Let's us get one. Modeling is when you're modeling, and I love that you asked this question, by the way, because it's about finding what are the actual parameters that are getting the results that you want in your business. So you don't have to model everything that another person does, but if you can work out what is your desired outcome that you want, then what aspect do you need to model of theirs that's actually producing that particular result? Because not everything that they do is getting that particular result.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it as like the distinction between understanding the underlying principles and just the surface level behavior.
Yeah.
Like if you see someone posting on social media 5 times a day, it's like, well, what's the principle rather than the behavior that they're doing? Because the principle is probably going to be consistency. It's consistency, but they're also probably layering on different forms of posts within that rather than just doing, 5 a day and then repeating that same behavior but not getting that result. It's because of the principles that are separate from that.
Yeah.
And, when we can actually start to zoom out and look at things based on principles rather than getting too ingrained in like the weeds and the details of it too much, then things open up for us.
Yeah.
What do you see as some common principles of success that play out for people?
Common principles of success. I kind of like to think of the life balance wheel. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that. If you haven't, go look it up. Just search for life balance wheel. There's like 8 key areas in our life. And if one of those areas are out of alignment, then it's absolutely going to trickle into other areas of your life. So imagine if you're going through a toxic relationship, then that's absolutely going to draw your energy and your vitality in your business. And just the same as if your health is not supportive of your output, then that's going to have a direct impact in your business. So success measures or success metrics in business, I would say, is make sure that you've got balance in all of those other areas of life. And I've been in business now for over 20 years. I'm in my 13th business model. I've hit burnout 5 times. I've run multiple businesses simultaneously before. And in those times that I've hit burnout previously, it's like what I was doing just wasn't sustainable. I've also had a business partner previously who ended up, with a heart attack, 3 strokes, ended up in a wheelchair, bowel cancer, just from hustling way too hard and not reading the signals or the signs of any other life area. I've also hustled to the point where I've realized, hey, I'm a bit lonely. Where's my social life, And then I literally had to go and recreate and make friends again with the people who I'd just been too busy to give time to. So it really is about finding balance for one, but then the success metrics inside the actual business. And this is something that I do see a lot in the coaching space or business, like working with other business owners. So many people aren't tracking the right metrics in their business. Like they don't know their numbers. They don't know their team output. They don't understand exactly what's going on. So I would say if you're not great at that yourself, bring somebody in, hire a business coach or get somebody on your team that understands this stuff and start tracking the right metrics in your business, because you'll probably find that you're probably bleeding money somewhere or you're bleeding energy somewhere, or you've got a couple of people on your team that probably aren't working in their own genius zones. And somebody who's exceptional at this is Richard Branson. So when Richard Branson builds companies, he's like, okay, we got 20 seats on this bus, and he will literally go and headhunt specific talent to fill those seats. So he knows exactly what he's looking for. So he's hiring for the skill set, not for the personality style of the person. So it's like understanding, what do you need in your business? Is it that you need a social media expert? Is it that you need a business development manager? Is it that you need somebody who does great competitor analysis? Is it that you need a better accountant? And it's like really working out who specifically do you need to track the right who specifically do you need, and are you tracking those right metrics in your business? Yeah.
How do we start to access, high level talent when we're more in startup phases then?
Yeah, great question. I would say join some groups, like get amongst it. There's plenty of like Facebook community groups out there. There are a lot of amazing coaches out there that have like free community groups as well. So if you're in a light financial area and you want some advice, is again, go and seek out the coaches of who you're specifically looking for and see if they have any free resources. Also, AI is amazing. Like AI really is amazing. ChatGPT is, can do some amazing things. We've also got Grok. There's so many other AI tools and platforms that you can utilize. So when you're on a lean startup, like work out what specifically do I need help with, and then, start with AI first, but also do your research and see if there's some free groups as well. The only thing with those groups I would say is if there's a specific coach that you follow or somebody that you follow, if they've got a free community, definitely go in there or sign up for their ongoing newsletters. But try not to get caught up in the hype inside the group, because that, people can get distracted by that. Yeah.
How do we go beyond shiny object syndrome and distractions then and getting caught up in that hype? Because, as business owners, if we love newness,
yes,
we end up getting on that shiny object bandwagon.
Yeah. It's just coming back to basics every day. So this is why I love the High Performance Planner from good old Brendan Burchard. There's a section in there where he talks about clarity. He talks about your productivity, your mission, your purpose, your intention. And so what I find by just doing that as a daily consistency every day, it just sets the intention for the day. And so it's like you've got your intention and you've got your clarity and you've got that area, and it's almost like keeping your blinders on for a few days, a few hours of every day, but then give yourself permission to dream and to see what else is out there. But then every time you're considering the shiny new thing, which I love, it's like, coming back to that self-honesty and reflecting on, does this work with my current mission and vision, and how does it work if it does work? Or is it a distraction? And it could just be that if it's something that you genuinely love and are wanting to explore, but it doesn't fit into the business over here, give yourself permission to do it as a side hustle and have that, but don't try and derail something that's working well.
Yeah, I love that. I love what Taki Moore was like, the question that underneath ask yourself is like, does it make the boat move faster?
Yeah.
It's like, are you working on the things that are actually going to make the boat move faster, or are you just working on things that are just like changing the paint on it every other week, rather than, actually allowing yourself to be able to get into that feedback loop of recognizing, okay, cool, what's the long-term vision? What is that North Star? What am I actually focusing on long-term?
Yes.
And actually doing the actions to be able to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and actually going, okay, cool. Is this going to make it faster, or is this just a vanity thing? Is this just about how it looks?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How do we actually start to, we kind of talked about it in terms of like metrics earlier and working with clients. How do we go beyond the Instagram society of making things look perfect and shiny?
I would love to say turn it off. Something that I did for myself in my business over the last 12 months is I stopped posting on social media for nearly 12 months, since August last year. And it was just to take a bit of a break from that space. Now, if you're new and you're trying to get your message out there, that's probably not the greatest piece of advice if you're trying to get yourself seen and heard. So it takes a while. Once you've built up your connections and your networks, then you don't need to rely on the social platforms to go there. So how do we avoid that? I would definitely say give yourself permission to have social media breaks realistically. And then just, something that I also like to do is ChatGPT or some of those AI platforms can probably help you do this, but like understand what is your message, who specifically is your audience, what are your core message pillars, what are the subcategories under those pillars. And as long as you're sharing, it doesn't matter what you love and what's shiny out there, but as long as you can weave that back into your core message pillars, then you can stay on track. So there's nothing wrong with getting excited and keeping up with trends and what's happening out there, as long as the message still lands and is still speaking your unique message or your authentic message, and it's landing with your ideal audience. Yeah.
What would you say is your current authentic message then?
My current authentic message. At the moment, it's probably just being your best. And it's not just being your best. It's like getting to know who you are and what you need to be your best. So like the being your best self is like, I feel like that's just a self thing, is like optimizing yourself to be your best. But then what helps you be your best is probably the expansion upon that, is like, who's the people that you surround yourself with that help you become your best? Who's the people that you have that give you a bit of a mirror check once in a while?
It's a nice way to put it, a mirror check.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do people do when, when they don't have access to that, they don't have access, or they don't currently have someone who's a good mirror check for them?
I would say, get one as soon as you can. And even if it's not somebody in a paid position, even if you can't afford a coach right now, see if you know anybody in your current network that could be that person for you, and ask them clearly, ask them if you know somebody who's been good at in the past of giving you that bit of a reality check once in a while, maybe onboard them, ask them to be your person. Just say, look, I can't afford a coach right now, but you've given me some pretty, harsh truths before in the past. And would it be okay if I asked that of you? This is what I'm trying to achieve. Would you mind being that person for me? And I think that would be a really helpful way. If somebody can't afford a coach right now, is ask yourself, who do you know that could be that person for you? And don't just expect it of them, but actually ask them for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect thing to wrap up on for today. Thanks for
Beautiful.
this beautiful conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What's the best way for people to find you?
Well, I am on socials and I do check my messages. So on Facebook, just Julie Thompson, Advanced Mind Academy. You'll find me there, or Julie Thompson Coach on Instagram.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.